Hey guys, it's Hill from Primal Pillars, bringing you this week's holistic nutrition tip to help you dominate your life. I've been a strength and nutrition coach for several years, and I've helped a ton of people learn to love lifting weights and love their body without obsessing over diets or calories or the scale. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today I'm going to show you how to measure food portions using your hand to help you lose weight but also be eating enough while you're dieting and create portions in your meals that are right specifically for you. So it's going to make sure you're getting enough protein and the right balance of nutrients while you are going through your nutrition program. No need to count calories or use a food tracker or eat those pre-portioned Weight Watchers meals. You're going to be eating all the foods that you normally eat and love, just being really mindful of your portions. So let's go ahead and dive into the video. First, let's start out with measuring protein sources. For that, we're going to use the palm of your hand. I would recommend having 1 or 2 servings of protein with each meal, where a serving is the size of the palm of your hand. Now, to be clear, I'm talking about foods that are primarily protein, so this wouldn't include things like lentils or beans, which we would actually classify more as a carbohydrate. So just to keep things simple, let's specifically focus on meats like chicken, beef, pork, or fish. Eye out the size of the cooked meat based on the diameter and width of your palm. And actually here, I'm going to include dairy products like yogurt, but only if it's yogurt not packed with extra sugar, which you'll want to watch out for big time. Next would be your starch or carbohydrate, which you can measure by cupping your hand. So if this is rice, it would be a cupped handful of cooked rice, or if it's sweet potato, a cupped handful of cooked sweet potato. If it's bread, then I know this one is tricky, but do your best to eye out a handful of bread. I'm not saying you have to squish your bread into a ball, but keep in mind that as you go through this and do this more often, it's going to become easier to eyeball out that portion size related to your hand. Fruit would be included in here too, so you can measure, say, a cupped handful of bananas or berries. You get the idea. Now let's look at fats, which you can measure using the size of your thumb, so the length and the width of your thumb. People often go way overboard with cooking oil, and it's one of those things in eating meals out that is like a hidden calorie. Since you can't see it, you can't see the oil, you don't know how much was used if you didn't do the cooking yourself. So that's why it's always way easier to eat at home when you've done the cooking yourself and you know exactly what's in your food. If this is cooking oil like ghee, coconut oil, or something else liquid, I know this can be tricky, but just do your best. Maybe even use a spoon to measure it out first so that you can get a better eye on it. If this is a condiment like mayonnaise, same thing here. Cheese, just a side note here, because cheese is kind of a fat, but it's also really high in protein. It kind of straddles that line between the two. I would go a little heavier on cheese, especially if it's like lower calorie cheese like mozzarella or that kind of thing. So for cheese, maybe 2 to 3 thumbs full, again, since this is a lot of protein and it has a dual purpose. Peanut butter or nuts, again, the size of your thumb. That covers your 3 primary macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And the other category I want to include here is vegetables. You want to shoot for 1 to 2 portions of veggies at all of your major meals, which we will measure using your fist. So a fist's amount of lettuce and tomato, a fist's amount of carrots, a fist's amount of broccoli or bell peppers. And we'll go ahead and leave veggies out of your yogurt bowl. Thank you very much. And there you go. You've made your meal and it's perfect for you. We have 1 to 2 portions of protein, a portion of starch or carbs, a portion of fat, and a couple portions of veggies. Now you might notice that I didn't include here odd sorts of snacky foods like chips, candy, that sort of thing. That doesn't exactly fall into like one of those categories. And that's just something for you to be aware of, maybe eating moderately while you're trying to lose weight. Because remember, if your goal is weight loss, you really want to try to stick to nutrient-dense whole foods. And what I mean by that is everything we've just seen here is a whole food, meaning it hasn't really been processed a lot. It's kind of in its whole form. So whether that's dairy or meat or rice, that kind of thing. So I like to recommend at least starting off with these nutrient-dense foods, building your meals based on these foods, whole foods, and get used to what that looks like. And then afterwards, if you're still hungry or if you need a snack, then you can kind of build in these more processed foods like in here and there. Again, just kind of being mindful of what place they have in your weight loss program. What's cool about this process is that if you want to eat fewer carbs and higher fat, or vice versa, you can simply swap out. So if you want to eat a little extra carbohydrates, just take away a little bit of the fats. Now you're also going to notice here that Hillary, like some of these meats that you're portioning out are like have hugely different caloric values. Yes, so tuna fish or chicken breast is going to be a lot lower in calories and higher in protein than something like a ribeye steak or a chicken thigh. So that's something for you to maybe keep in mind down the road, but just as you're beginning to learn how to portion out your meals, it's not quite as important right now. So in my opinion, it's more important in the beginning of your weight loss program and just when all of this is feeling really new to you, to focus more on like creating meals out of whole foods that have balanced portion sizes for you as an individual. And then as you get more familiar with this process, then you can start to make note of things like, well, do I feel better when I eat more carbohydrates and lower fat meals? Or do I feel better and more satiated when I eat like higher fat protein sources and oils and like keep the carbs lower? Everyone's a little bit different there, but I think once you've learned how to balance your meals in these proportions, then you can start to pay attention to more things like that. You can also use this process while you're eating out at a restaurant, which I know might sound like it's really obnoxious to be like putting food in your hands when you're out to eat. You don't have to be that weird about it. Again, like the more that you do this, the more that you're going to be able to just eye things out by looking at it. But as you go, remember to keep it honest and not try to like expand the size of your hand, right? So if you are out and you're having a burger and fries, when you get your plate of food, just maybe make note of, you know, how much in terms of protein, like how big is that burger related to my hand? Is it about 1 to 2 servings? If so, just leave it and that's great. Then what about the bun or the fries? Maybe you decide you really want the fries, but you're going to leave the bun off so that you can kind of like save that more for the fries. So just make a little note of the portion that you want to eat. Maybe set some of the rest of the food like off to the side of the plate. You can always bring it home later. And you really don't have to make a big deal out of this. Honestly, I think like the biggest and trickiest part about weight loss is when you get really in your head about it and you just start to think that it's a huge sacrifice that you have to eat less. Well, you might notice as you go on, when you start measuring out portions with your hand, that it's way less than you have been eating, but you actually feel totally satisfied. So it's starting to get you in tune with how much your body actually needs to thrive and function well, but also be losing weight. So my biggest piece of advice is don't like whine and complain about this. Remember that it's your choice to be doing this, and instead of feeling like, oh, I can't even enjoy eating out, instead just like feel empowered by the process and feel empowered by the fact that it's your choice to be doing this and you're in control of how this goes for you. I hope you learned a little something useful today. If you've liked this video, make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment for me about any questions that you might have or follow-up videos that you'd like to see. And if you jive with this sort of video, make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can be up to date when all of my latest video tips come out.